Imagine walking into a marble chamber where the air reeks of copper and rosewater. Steam rises from an ornate tub, but the liquid inside isn't milk or perfumed oils. It's blood, fresh blood. And sitting in it, completely submerged up to her neck, is a queen. She's not wounded. She's not dying. She's bathing. This is her beauty routine. Around her, servants stand with silver bowls, ready to pour more when the blood cools. In the corner, bodies are being carried out through a back door. The donors who made this bath possible. They were young, they were healthy, and they were promised something, anything, to give what she needed. This isn't a horror movie. This wasn't some isolated madness. For centuries, European nobility believed that bathing in human blood, specifically the blood of virgins, could restore youth, cure disease, and grant immortality. And the most terrifying part? They weren't entirely wrong to think it might work, at least not by the twisted logic of medieval medicine. What I am about to tell you will make you understand why certain royal beauty secrets were locked away in family vaults, why some chamber servants signed contracts that forbade them from ever speaking about what they witnessed, and why the Catholic Church quietly paid families to forget what happened to their daughters. By the end of this, you'll never look at portraits of ageless queens the same way again, because behind those painted smiles and perfect skin, there was a price, and someone else always paid it. Let's start with a name that should make your skin crawl. Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess of Hungary, documented in trial records from 1610. History remembers her as a serial killer, a monster who tortured and murdered over 600 young women. But here's what they don't tell you in school. She wasn't alone. She wasn't even unique. Bathory was just the one who got caught, the one who became so brazen that even a nobility used to looking the other way couldn't ignore it anymore. But the practice, the belief that blood could restore youth, that was everywhere. It was whispered about in French courts. It was documented in German medical texts. It was an open secret among the ruling classes of Europe. The theory came from medieval humoral medicine, the idea that the body contained 4 essential fluids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Youth and vitality were associated with an abundance of hot, moist blood. As you aged, your blood became corrupted, thickened, depleted. So the logic, twisted as it was, seemed sound. If you wanted to reverse aging, you needed fresh blood, young blood, pure blood. And what was purer than the blood of a virgin? The concept of virginity itself was wrapped up in medieval ideas about corruption and contamination. A virgin's blood was believed to be uncorrupted by sexual contact, untainted by the pollution of intercourse, which medieval medicine genuinely believed altered a woman's humors permanently. So virgin blood wasn't just symbolically pure, it was medically pure. It was the ultimate raw material for restoration. Bathory's method was disturbingly systematic. Girls would be recruited from surrounding villages, promised positions as chambermaids or seamstresses in the castle. Once inside, they would disappear into the lower chambers. Trial records describe a torture room where Bathory and her accomplices would drain blood from victims while they were still alive, collecting it in basins and tubs. Then Bathory would bathe in it, smearing it on her face and body, believing it would keep her skin youthful. But she wasn't inventing this practice. She was implementing something she'd heard about, something that whispered through noble circles as an ancient secret. Some accounts claim she learned it from an aunt who practiced dark alchemy. Others suggest she heard about it from Italian courtesans who claimed Cleopatra herself had bathed in blood. The point is, this wasn't one woman's madness. This was a cultural belief system that made blood bathing seem not just possible, but logical. Now here's where it gets even darker. Bathory was eventually arrested and tried, but not because she was bathing in blood. She was arrested because she started killing noble girls. As long as her victims were peasants, nobody with power cared. Serfs disappeared all the time. Who was going to investigate? who was going to demand justice for some farmer's daughter? But when Bathory made the mistake of killing the daughter of a lesser noble, someone with just enough social standing to make noise, the machinery of justice suddenly activated. And even then, she wasn't executed. She was too well connected, too wealthy, too embedded in the power structures of Hungarian nobility. Instead, she was walled up inside her own castle, bricked into a set of rooms with only a small slot for food. She lived there for 4 years before dying, never officially convicted, never publicly shamed, because a public trial would have revealed too much about what other nobles knew and ignored. Her accomplices, the servants who helped her, they were executed. Tortured first, of course, to extract confessions, then burned alive or beheaded, depending on their rank. But Bathory herself, the architect of hundreds of murders, got to die in relative comfort behind stone walls. Because that's how power worked. The people who enabled the horror, who cleaned up the blood, who disposed of the bodies, they were expendable. But the noble who ordered it, she was protected until the very end. The practice didn't die with Bathory. If anything, her trial just made people more careful. Throughout the 17th and 18th centuries, there are scattered references in medical texts and alchemical manuscripts to blood as a restorative substance. A 1679 treatise by a German physician describes blood transfusions from young donors to elderly patients as a method of rejuvenation. The procedure was primitive, often fatal, but the underlying belief was the same. Young blood equals youth. French aristocrats in the court of Louis XIV were rumored to drink small amounts of blood mixed with wine, calling it an elixir. Italian nobles commissioned private physicians to perform bloodletting on young servants, then immediately applied that fresh blood to their own skin as a poultice. These weren't backwater peasants engaging in folk magic. These were educated people with access to the best medical knowledge of the time, and they genuinely believed this worked. And here is the thing that should disturb you most. Modern science has discovered they might have been onto something, though not in the way they thought. Recent studies on parabiosis, the practice of surgically connecting the circulatory systems of young and old mice, have shown that young blood does contain factors that can rejuvenate old tissue. Proteins, hormones, stem cell activators that decline with age. Silicon Valley billionaires are now literally paying for young blood transfusions, hoping to extend their lives. The medieval nobles were wrong about virgins and purity, wrong about humors and corruption, but they were accidentally right about the basic concept that something in young blood might restore vitality. Which means for 400 years, people were murdered based on a theory that contained a kernel of scientific truth buried under layers of superstition and horror. The Catholic Church's role in all this is worth examining because it is more complicated than you think. Officially, the Church condemned these practices as witchcraft and heresy. Blood magic was associated with devil worship, with pagan rituals, with everything Christianity opposed. But unofficially, quietly, the Church often looked the other way when nobility was involved. Why? Because noble families funded churches, donated land, paid for cathedral construction, supported monasteries. Alienating powerful families over something as mundane as a few dead peasants wasn't good policy. There are records of priests being transferred suddenly after witnessing things in noble households of bishops receiving substantial donations. Right after certain rumors started circulating of confessors being bound by elaborate secrecy oaths that went far beyond normal confession privileges. The Church didn't endorse blood bathing, but it also didn't aggressively prosecute it when the perpetrators had titles and money. The families of victims were sometimes paid off, given small parcels of land or modest sums in exchange for silence. Other times, they were simply threatened. Your daughter went to work in the castle and never came back? Well, perhaps she ran away. Perhaps she was wicked and God punished her. Perhaps you should stop asking questions before something unfortunate happens to your other children. This was the machinery of social control in action. The ruling class could literally get away with murder as long as they were murdering the right people, the expendable people, the ones nobody with power cared about. And the institutions that should have provided justice, the church, the legal system, they were complicit, not through active participation, but through strategic blindness. They simply chose not to see what was happening right in front of them. By the 18th century, as Enlightenment thinking spread and medical science advanced, these practices started to seem barbaric, even to nobility. The theory of humors was being replaced by more accurate understandings of biology. Blood was no longer seen as a mystical substance, but as a bodily fluid with specific functions. Bathing in blood didn't make you young. It just made you covered in blood. But the transition wasn't sudden. Old beliefs died slowly, especially when they were tied to vanity and a desperate fear of aging. Even as late as the 1850s, there are accounts of Eastern European nobles engaging in modified versions of blood rituals, drinking animal blood mixed with herbs, applying blood-based ointments to their skin. The specific practice of bathing in human blood faded, but the underlying desire, the obsession with youth, the willingness to harm others in pursuit of beauty, it never went away. It just found new forms. Today, we have different rituals, different horrors. Cosmetic procedures using stem cells harvested from questionable sources. Beauty products tested on animals in conditions of systematic cruelty. An entire industry built on making people feel inadequate about aging, driving them to increasingly extreme measures. We like to think we're more civilized than medieval nobles bathing in blood. But are we? Or have we just gotten better at hiding the brutality, at outsourcing the horror, and making sure the suffering happens out of sight? The bloodbaths of European queens weren't an aberration. They were a symptom of something that's still with us. The belief that beauty and youth are worth any price, as long as someone else is paying it.